TV2. From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings in Tehran, Tom Jarrell in Chicago, and from our desk in Washington, Frank Reynolds.
Good evening. Max Robinson is on vacation tonight. Day 65 of captivity for American hostages in Iran, and it had been hoped that today the United Nations Security Council would deal with the United States' demand for economic sanctions against Iran. However, the Security Council has spent the last 3 days debating or denouncing the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. Late this afternoon, the Council finally voted, and the Russians, as expected, vetoed the resolution. Here's a report from UN correspondent Lou Cioffi.
The last time there was a Soviet veto was almost a year ago on the question of the Vietnamese invasion of Cambodia. This time it's the Soviet Union itself being accused of invading Afghanistan, and a veto was never in question. The third day of debate was like the first, the communist world supporting Moscow's argument that the military intervention was normal and part of a mutual defense treaty between the two countries. However, the Western nations, joined by many of the so-called third world countries, bitterly attacked the Soviet action, calling it blatant aggression and demanding that Soviet forces withdraw from Afghanistan immediately. Despite efforts by the 5 non-aligned sponsors of the resolution to tone down the language, even avoiding mentioning the Soviet Union by name, the Soviet ambassador left no doubt that any resolution would be vetoed. So it was no surprise when he raised his hand in opposition to the resolution, thus effectively blocking any action by the Security Council. There is one further action the UN can take. The matter can be brought before the General Assembly, where there is no veto. But everyone agrees, since the General Assembly has no enforcement power, a vote there would have some propaganda value, but not much else. This is Lou Cioffi, ABC News at the United Nations.
White House officials said today, however, this country will support a move to the General Assembly. A statement issued on behalf of the president tonight called the Soviet veto a predictable and cynical action which demonstrates a lack of respect for the principles of religious freedom and the independence and territorial integrity of non-aligned states. Whatever action is eventually taken by the United Nations, it is not likely to deter the Soviets from going forward with their invasion of Afghanistan. Despite the sophisticated equipment the Russians are using, the tribesmen facing them are putting up stiff resistance in widely separate areas of the country. Reports today indicate the rebels have captured 3 small towns in Kunduz province in the far north. Fighting is also reported northeast of Kabul near the Pakistani border. And according to one account, in the old city of Herat, Soviet tanks were attacked by men and women armed with nothing except rocks and sticks. Excuse me. We have a series of reports tonight. First, here is Greg Dobbs in Kabul.
Tanks are still being moved toward Afghanistan's borders. This column was going away from the capital on the road toward Pakistan. More Russian guns and artillery are being dug in. Some are hard to see, and in fact, any pictures of them, including these, are forbidden. Some, reportedly, are still actively battling anti-communist Muslim guerrillas. Afghanistan is occupied. It's a fact that this crowd, in front of Pule Charki, Afghanistan's jail for political prisoners, tried to ignore for one day. They came after the public announcement all political prisoners are to be released. The size of this crowd outside attested to the number of people Amin imprisoned. The new government here puts it at 5,000, but a U.S. Embassy spokesman says more like 15,000. Friends and relatives were admitted just as prisoners were being released. Throughout this mass release, a military helicopter gunship hovered overhead. Typical intimidation, diplomatic observers say. While prisoners streamed out the gate, thousands outside strained to spot their relatives or friends. This woman didn't see her father. She concluded he must be among those who have died here. But then, he appeared, still behind bars. With Russian soldiers on guard, even manning the prison's front gates, no one needed reminders that this wouldn't be happening if the Russians hadn't helped overthrow the late President Amin. Thousands of families have now been reunited. The hated Amin regime is gone. But some political prisoners are still in this jail. And a foreign force of about 50,000 Russian troops is still in this country. Greg Dobbs, ABC News, near Kabul, Afghanistan.
This is Bill Rediker in Pakistan, and this is the Khyber Pass, one of history's most famous invasion routes. The armies of Alexander the Great and Genghis Khan marched through this mountainous corridor which links Afghanistan and Pakistan.
But today, the Khyber Pass has become an exodus route, with thousands of Afghanis fleeing their homeland and the Russian troops now stationed there. They arrive in Pakistan by the truckload, bringing with them clothing, cooking utensils, bedding, and tents. New arrivals greet one another with familiar stories about the gunfire back home and the Russian troops who now control their country. Most of their makeshift camps are filled with children and women because those who are able to fight have returned to Afghanistan.
We don't accept another country to come to our country. When another country comes to our country, we have to fight to die. It is better to die, not to live with the Russians.
The flood of refugees is nothing new for Pakistan. Officials here say it actually began more than 9 months ago when Russia began supplying Afghanistan with military and political advisors. But the recent intervention has accelerated the exodus, and today authorities say there are 400,000 Afghanis on Pakistan soil. Bill Rediker, ABC News, along the Afghan-Pakistani border.
Koppel. Last Friday, when President Carter announced a U.S. response to the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, available intelligence data indicated that 50 to 60,000 Soviet troops had crossed the border. Senior White House officials at that time expressed the hope that the Soviets would terminate their invasion and begin withdrawing troops. Instead, the opposite has happened. In and around the capital city of Kabul, the Soviets now have one motorized rifle division, elements of an airborne division, a squadron of MiG-21s, and some MiG-23s. Between Herat and Shindan, near the Iranian border, the Soviets have deployed a squadron of Su-17 fighter bombers and another motorized rifle division. Over the weekend, though, U.S. intelligence has picked up evidence of as many as 20 to 25,000 fresh troops who may have just crossed the border, and another 2 to 3 divisions mobilizing just north of the border. Instead of a drawdown, the total of Soviet troops in or next to Afghanistan has dramatically risen close to the 100,000 mark.
That neither the United States nor any other nation which is committed to world peace and stability can continue to do business as usual with the Soviet Union.
The scope of the Soviet invasion, said spokesman Carter, indicates that there is nothing expeditionary about the Soviet force. It appears, said Carter, to be the core of an even larger, permanent force to be deployed in the future. Ted Koppel, ABC News at the State Department.
Worries about Afghanistan and the continuing hostage situation in Iran affected gold traders again today. The price of gold, which soared last week until profit takers moved in on Friday, went back up again today. In London, the price of an ounce closed up more than $33 on the day. In Zurich, the increase was $40 an ounce, and the price on the New York Exchange was up more than $23 an ounce. Still ahead, American journalists are under increasing pressure to leave Iran, and the Ford Motor Company goes on trial for reckless homicide involving the Pinto.
ABC's World News Tonight, brought to you by Oil of Olay, so every age can be the best you've ever looked.
When Karen was 1, I began to worry about tiny lines and wrinkles. And as she grew older, I didn't want to look any older than I was. Then I discovered the secret of Oil of Olay. Tropical oil and precious emollients help ease dryness that can accentuate tiny lines. Helps make your skin soft and young-looking. Now look how she's grown. And Bill, he says I never looked better.
Oil of Olay. It can help you look younger, too.
What do you take for a headache?
Anacin, but not at night.
Bayer aspirin, but not at night.
Tylenol, but not at night.
What did you take at night?
Excedrin PM.
Excedrin PM.
Excedrin PM.
Many people who use different pain relievers during the day have chosen Excedrin PM at night. Now it has a new formula. Excedrin PM relieves your headache and gives extra help to relax and sleep. So whatever you take during the day, at night, try the nighttime pain reliever.
Excedrin PM.
American farmers were assured today they will not be hurt by the grain embargo against the Soviet Union. Vice President Mondale, who's campaigning tonight in Duluth, Minnesota, said the Agriculture Department will buy grain that firms had contracted to sell to the Soviets. The embargo prompted the government to suspend trading in grain futures for today and tomorrow. Julie Eckert has that story.
At 9:30 this morning, the Chicago Board of Trade opened as usual, but the pits where they trade corn, wheat, and soybeans were empty. The only dealing among grain traders was in card games. Trading was suspended because of fear that traders would overreact to the Soviet embargo and prices would drop drastically. Grain prices can fluctuate as much as $150 million daily.
We went along with the Commission's decision to close trading, but we did not agree with it. We think it's an unnecessary and an unwarranted interference with the free market system.
On a normal day, 600 million tons of grain, worth $3 billion, are bought and sold. That grain is set to be delivered in a future month. Grain companies and farmers, who have been sitting on a record crop, fear prices will crash whenever the market opens, no matter what the government does in the meantime.
I'm a little reluctant to put a lot of faith in promises that something will be done to offset this thing.
Lower prices for farmers do not necessarily mean lower prices for consumers. Many experts say the embargo will have little or no effect on what we pay for food.
You could give wheat away for free and the price of bread would come down to 3 cents a loaf. All of the rest of the costs are for other things, not the price of the wheat.
Farm prices are the immediate problem, but a more serious one could be called a loss of confidence. Farmers complain the United States could come to be seen as an unreliable supplier, and regular customers could start buying elsewhere. Julie Eckert, ABC News, Chicago.
In Peking, Secretary of Defense Harold Brown met for more than 7 hours today with high-ranking Chinese officials to discuss the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. A spokesman for Brown, who is the first U.S. Secretary of Defense to visit China, said there will be follow-up discussions and further consultations on appropriate responses. Brown and the Chinese may also discuss a related development that could be of great importance in that part of the world. Former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi's Congress Party has won an absolute majority in the Indian national elections, which means she will soon be back in power. We have more from Ken Kashiwahara.
As the ballots are counted throughout India, the voting trend indicates that Indira Gandhi's party may not only win a clear majority in Parliament, but may capture up to 2/3 of the seats. Today, Mrs. Gandhi's supporters were already celebrating, and Mrs. Gandhi herself was confident of once again becoming Prime Minister of the world's largest democracy. So political analysts are beginning to speculate about the direction of India's foreign policy under Mrs. Gandhi. Although she denies it, most believe that India will once again tilt toward the Soviet Union and away from the United States. Her statements on Afghanistan are one indication. While she says she condemns the Soviet intervention, she appears to justify it by saying that others, including the United States, have done the same.
They're against any kind of foreign interference. On the other hand, we cannot judge a situation from a particular date. What is happening in Afghanistan today is the outcome of what has been happening earlier, and other people have been interfering. Everybody's been interfering, in fact.
Mrs. Gandhi was also critical of the U.S. offer to sell arms to neighboring Pakistan, and the fear now is that any Indian tilt toward Moscow could create further instability in the region. Ken Kashiwahara, ABC News, New Delhi.
To climb the mast at sea takes a taste for the robust. Judith Lawson found that out when she set out to sail the world alone. Nescafe set out to win the world with a coffee that's more than rich, it's robust. The robust flavor that helped make Nescafe the world's largest selling brand of instant coffees. Nescafe, regular and decaffeinated. Robust flavor that won the world.
The Horizon it's a car of today, it's a car of tomorrow. It's really a leader.
The Horizon is one of the best engineered small cars in the market.
It sounds like those Chrysler engineers are bragging, but the fact is, Horizon has more passenger room than Pinto or Chevette, more cargo space, good gas mileage, proven front-wheel drive. That's not bragging. That's just how it is.
Take immediate delivery of a Plymouth Horizon, priced from $49.25.
Hi, I'm Carlo Rossi. You know, to make really good tasting wines, you need to know exactly the right time to pick the grapes. And that's when experience makes the difference. We get the grapes to the winery when they're at their peak. That's why folks like our Carlo Rossi wines, like our Burgundy. It's soft and mellow. I'm sure you'll taste the difference experience makes. I like talking about Carlo Rossi Burgundy, but I'd rather drink it.
They say identical twins do identical things. But Kay and I are different. Sure, we both play pro basketball. And since we can't always eat right, we both look for the same kind of nutrition, Dannon yogurt. Dannon's all natural, and not many foods give you more nutrition with fewer calories. But that's it. That's where we part company. Yeah, because when it comes to Dannon, I like blueberry, while Faye here goes for blueberry.
Dannon low-fat yogurt. Now more than ever, it's the right thing to eat.
White House Press Secretary Jody Powell said today that conversations between the President and UN Secretary General Kurt Waldheim about the hostages in Iran have led to ideas worthy of exploration. Waldheim has suggested a possible package deal involving an international inquiry into the deposed Shah, coupled with the release of the hostages. But Powell also said the ideas are in a very early stage. For a report on today in Iran, here is Peter Jennings.
Here in Iran, at the beginning of another week, there is nothing to report which might indicate hope for the release of the hostages. They remain isolated inside the embassy walls, on which the tattered and in many cases fading signs and posters offer a sort of silent testimony to the fact that this is the 10th week. More Christmas cards arrived from home for the hostages today, and as before, while we know the incoming number to be enormous, there is little guarantee the hostages are seeing more than a sampling. The Ayatollah Khomeini is going to have another period of isolation. It was announced today from Qom that starting the 12th of January, he will receive no visitors for 15 days. The reason is fatigue. Outside this capital, which has become something of a political wasteland today, Iran's provinces have been marked by continuing political and religious unrest. For the foreign press, as Bill Blakemore reports, it is all becoming a bit more difficult to cover.
Possible expulsion of foreign journalists, said newspaper headlines here in Tehran this morning. In the past 3 days here, when certain scenes in ABC TV reports were fed through Iranian satellite facilities, showing crowds in troubled provincial capital Tabriz demonstrating against Khomeini in favor of another Ayatollah, those scenes repeatedly showed picture breakup or were simply blacked out. The satellite transmission facilities here have been completely banned for CBS television for 4 days now, on the grounds of false reporting about Iran by a reporter in the United States. Several foreign journalists, including a CBS TV crew, returned today from Tabriz after being detained there by 2 of Khomeini's revolutionary guards and asked to catch the next plane for Tehran. The reason they were given?
In the last few days, we had told lies about what the people in Tabriz were saying about the central government. It was never any more specific than that.
But this afternoon, when we asked Foreign Press Director Abu Hussein Sadegh here in Tehran for an explanation, he said not individual facts, but the overall coverage of Iran, especially by American media, is prompting new examinations here of foreign press coverage.
As a whole, you're saying that America is getting a wrong impression of this country. The American people are that biased reporting. And when I say biased, I don't mean that a riot, a particular riot in Tabriz is true or not. It definitely is. You say it's biased, but it doesn't show the whole truth.
While there is still no official censorship here, and still a relatively high degree of foreign press freedom for a country in an immediately post-revolutionary situation, officials here are reported tonight considering cutting down the number of American network personnel allowed to work here in Iran. Bill Blakemore, ABC News in Tehran.
We'll have another special report tonight on the crisis in Iran. Tonight's report will be at 11:30, 10:30 Central Time.
Get the whole wheat working for you.
Get whole wheat Wheaties working for you. Because for good nutrition, a Wheaties breakfast is hard to beat. You see, Wheaties is made from the whole kernel of wheat. You get not only the heart of the wheat, but the wheat germ and bran fiber too. Don't shortchange your body. Get all the nutrition that comes from a good breakfast. Like a whole wheat Wheaties breakfast.
Get the whole wheat working for you.
Wheaties, the breakfast of champions.
What could you do with $100,000? In the new Reader's Digest $500,000 sweepstakes, you could walk away with top money, $100,000. Over 53,000 other cash prizes. Watch the mail for your Reader's Digest sweepstakes letter, then send this entry back fast. The quicker you enter, the more you could be eligible to win. Top money, $100,000. But you can't win if you don't enter.
Maxwell House is bringing folks together. Maxwell House, good to the last drop. Maxwell House is good morning. Maxwell House is
a good day.
Good to the last drop. Maxwell House.
ABC brand. Coffee you can count on to bring people together. Always good to the last drop.
Maxwell House is
a good friend.
Good to the last drop. Maxwell House.
Sylvia, I just ran out of furniture polishing nonfiction. Here, take my pledge. But Sylvia, I wasn't using pledge. Shh. Oh, what's the difference?
You can see the difference. Pledge gives you a clean, clear, more beautiful shine.
Hey, my polish looks blurry, but pledge, it's beautiful. Sylvia, there's a shine in nonfiction like you wouldn't believe.
Pledge, it's a difference worth looking into. Every time you dust.
President Carter today signed the law providing $1.5 billion in federal loan guarantees for the Chrysler Corporation. The president said the bill will protect 200,000 jobs and preserve competition in the automobile industry. However, Chrysler must arrange another $2 billion in private loans, and the Auto Workers Union must still approve more than $460 million in wage concessions. Tom?
Frank, jury selection began today in Winamac, Indiana for a most unusual criminal trial. The defendant is a corporation. Ford Motor Company faces a charge of reckless homicide in an accident involving the Pinto.
In early 1978, the government found what could happen when an early model Pinto was struck from behind. The fuel tank collapsed, spilling gas on the exhaust pipe, causing an explosion and fire. This test led to the recall that summer of 1.5 million 1971 through 76 Pintos. Ford has been besieged by civil lawsuits, one of them leading to the highest damage award ever to an individual, $128 million to this man, Richard Grimshaw. But those were civil suits. In August of 1978, 12 days before the Pinto recall notices were mailed out, 3 teenage girls were on their way to a volleyball game in Indiana. They burned to death when their Pinto exploded into flames after being hit from the rear by a van. This accident led to the first case of a corporation, Ford, being charged with a criminal offense, homicide.
It may put on notice the manufacturers that once they have a defective product and they have knowledge of that defect, that they have to fix it.
Cociento is hoping to introduce documents that allegedly show Ford knew about the problems with the Pinto but decided it would cost too much to fix them. Ford maintains the Pinto was no more dangerous than any other car on the road. Ford has brought in a team of defense lawyers headed by former Watergate lawyer James Neal to counter the army of volunteers by the prosecution. Although the highest penalty in this case would be a $30,000 fine, the stakes are even higher. For the first time, a corporation faces the prospect of being convicted of a homicide. In Nairobi, Kenya, authorities now say Joy Adamson, the author of Born Free, may not have been killed by a lion after all. Police are treating the case as a murder and have arrested 3 men said to be former employees whom Mrs. Adamson had fired. When her body was discovered last Thursday, officials said she had been mauled by a lion, but an autopsy reportedly indicates Joy Adamson was stabbed to death.
What's the most important part of my day? I think my night. Because that's the only time I have to really unwind, put the day behind me, and get the rest I need. But some nights I have trouble falling asleep, so I take Sominex. Sominex helps me feel drowsy so I can get to sleep.
Sominex, America's #1 sleep aid. When you sometimes have trouble falling asleep, Sominex will work for you.
I'm having a real good day because I got to sleep last night.
A denture cleanser can clean those stains? I don't believe it.
Polident's new penetrating formula can. It's really improved.
Well, how improved can it be?
Watch. We baked 4 food stains onto this half of new denture material.
Hey, that is tough.
So is new improved Polident. Its penetrating formula cleans even tough stains better than ever. Okay, which side was stained?
I can't tell.
Unbelievable. Even in between. Try new Polident. Improve to clean stains better.
This was to have been the night for lights, camera, action in the Civic Center in Des Moines, as President Carter, Senator Kennedy, and Governor Brown engaged in the first Democratic Party debate of 1980. However, the Civic Center will be dark tonight. No candidates, no debating. That does not mean, however, no campaigning. Here is a report from Sander Van Oker.
Sandy. How are you? Hello. All the presidential candidates are out there on the hustings, doing what presidential candidates usually do in January. They're all out there, all but one. As President Carter told Frank Reynolds last week,
my belief is that the American people at this point want to know that their president is in the White House taking care of these crises that could adversely affect our nation, and that they are not hungering for another exclusively Democratic partisan campaigner.
Despite the fact that he has pulled out of the debate, and despite the fact that he is not coming out to press the flesh before the January 21st caucuses, the fact is that President Carter is mounting a partisan campaign in Iowa and elsewhere.
Before the crisis in Iran and before the recent Soviet aggression in Afghanistan, cameras were allowed behind the scenes at the White House.
Last night, a half-hour paid political commercial ran on ABC. It was skillfully designed to resemble a political documentary. Originally set to run in early December when the president announced his bid for re-election, it was updated to include references to the crises in Iran and Afghanistan. And the Carter campaign is now running commercials locally in Iowa.
It's wonderful to be back in Iowa.
And the president's surrogates are out there campaigning for him. And there have been phone calls from the president in the White House to Democrats who live in the early caucus and primary states. In Iowa last week, he talked by phone to both groups and individuals. One person he talked to was Lando Valadez in Des Moines.
After talking to him for about 30 seconds or so, I said, well, just a minute. Jimmy, is this you? Is this really you, the president? And he laughed and he assured me that he was. From that point on, I was assured that indeed it was the president of the United States.
What did he say to you?
He called me, he told me, he said, I'm calling you because I want your support in the upcoming caucuses.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
There is a name for all this. It is the Rose Garden strategy. And the most important aspect of it is the day in and day out demonstration of the ultimate power of the presidency. The ability to dominate the front pages and the airwaves without ever leaving the White House. Sander Van Oker, ABC News, Washington.
It was a little chilly to be standing around in the Rose Garden today, but Mr. Carter did have a visitor bearing a political message that was no doubt welcome. Muhammad Ali, the greatest, stopped by the White House, ostensibly to report on his recent visit to China, but also, as it turned out, to endorse the president for re-election. In a typical display of his penchant for understatement, Ali told reporters that all his followers and fans, and he put the number at around 75 million, will vote for Mr. Carter, which would be quite an improvement for the president. In 1976, he won with slightly more than 40 million votes. That's our report for now on World News Tonight. For ABC News, good night.
From ABC, this has been World News Tonight. Steve Bell brings you the news weekday mornings on Good Morning America.
Monday, Laverne and Shirley moved to a brand new night.
No kidding.
On a dream-come-true vacation that blows up into a tropical nightmare. Laverne and Shirley now on Mondays. Then at a special time.
My name's Bond. James Bond.
It's Bond at his best. Live and let die. Parental discretion advised.
Good evening, I'm Ann Holt. Coming up on Newswatch tonight at 6.